The interest in philosophy came about when I was doing a course in science. It was around quantum science, and the teacher said that actually some of the answers to this can't be stated in a scientific way. You actually need to go and study philosophy to get to the root of some of the more difficult questions in science. And what I did was I went and did a course in philosophy. It was called the Introduction to Philosophy, Western Philosophy, and did that as an evening class. After I've been doing some classes in philosophy, um, all of a sudden there was kind of an inspirational moment, and I can't kind of point down to why that happened. It just happened, where I thought, hang on, what I've been studying in philosophy, ancient and modern philosophy, there are some thoughts, some ideas there that could be very applicable to organizations who are going through change, who are going through complex change, where the answers are uncertain. So the process started in July of last year, that's 2016, when that inspiration came. And then I had to think about how do I get this into a product that could be used. And the thought that occurred to me would be a game of cards would be very useful, which one would be around pointing to the philosophical idea, and the second would be around change, organizational change, and how that idea could relate to organizational change. And having written a book already, and learned a few mistakes from the process of writing that book, I realized that I needed to put a strong team together to get these cards out. So I enlisted a very good designer to design some icons for us. I enlisted my philosophy teacher, to make sure that the content was robust and stood the test of time. And then I also did quite a lot of research on how I could bring this card game about in a way that would be useful for organizations. I very much drew upon my experience as a consultant, knowing full well that when I've been facilitating workshops looking at complex change, often inspiration had been missing. People were relying on past experience or brainstorming to come up with new ideas rather than looking for ideas that are completely outside of something that thought about. And I realized that that would be very powerful in workshop environments, in environments where new ideas need to be brought in. Having these philosophical ideas could be very powerful in changing people's thinking and changing the state of where they were. It's early days so far, but I do find that the cards have been generally accepted very well. They've been used by two clients already, and both of them found them very interesting in terms of some of the new content and new ideas it brought about. In terms of my own business, yes, the quotes themselves have been very useful. So, for example, Aristotle say the sum is greater than the parts. And very much over the last year, collaboration has been very much at the forefront of my mind because I realize that magic happens when you bring different people together to work on a project. And even though it seems quite disparate, quite not joined up, magic can happen if you trust the process, and the sum can be greater than the parts. There are also quotes by Heidegger that what we imagine is often greater than what is actually possible, and that is very also very useful because that means that imagination, rational thinking, become very strong in terms of developing a business. So ideas are very powerful in coming up with solutions later on. The way I like clients use this for businesses they can use this in multiple ways. And in a way, we've created a card so that can be used in the way that suits the client. But the scenarios I imagine are first when the client is struggling around a very complex change issue. It could be around, timing around putting in an IT solution. It could be around relocating to another region. It could be around complex issues around people. When it's really struggling, and there are a lot of questions that seem to have paradoxical answers, seem to have diverse answers, almost contradictory answers, philosophy can really help because it can join up those paradoxes. And I feel that's one good area. The second area is very much in a kind of workshop environment where something needs to be delivered, and the process is clear. But to embellish that process, to bring out new thinking, new creativity, the cards can help. And the third area is very much at an individual level, where someone is struggling with a problem, where they're bashing their heads against a wall, and they're really looking for to change their whole mental state. And by looking at a problem in a very different way, eureka moments can occur.